necessarily the first time, but I think the first time that I can remember that we've got a tech team today. Now, the tech team is made up of Meredith Greta from International Association for Community Development. She will be waving, I hope. And James Wood, one of our board members, he's also waving. Now, we wouldn't have got this far, I think, without them today. So thanks in advance, guys, and absolutely no pressure if the tech goes belly up. And if it does go belly up, it'll clearly be my fault. I'll take the hit for it, but I'm sure things will be fine. So if there's any time where it does go, but I'm sure folk will give us a bit of patience. The programme for today, we're going to do the AGM first, and then we'll have a short break, and then keynote speaker Joe McConnell has kindly joined us from Crossroads Youth and Community Organisation, and he's going to give us some kind of thoughtful input on how we're going to go about examining what value-based community development is and what's happened to our values. So I'm looking forward to that, and that should set us up well for the workshop groups. We're going to try hard to finish for 12:30. As I say, tech and breaks allowing, then I think that should give us plenty of time for the discussion groups, which is the important bit of the day, I think. So I'm going to hand you over to Meredith and James now, our tech team, who are going to give us a bit of a run through of some of the tech we're using today, as well as a couple of wee kind of warm-ups. Is that all right? Meredith, James, over to you.
We are ready, yes. So thanks everybody for being here today. So James and I are on the tech, and if anybody has any questions, you can just shoot one of us a private message in the chat function. So we're just going to start with some icebreakers, just kind of getting to know each other, and then we'll move on to some more of like the technical elements. But it's really not like that techy. We'll be able to figure it out really quickly. So the first thing that I want to ask people, just to kind of get a recording of this, is if you are currently a member of Scdn, can you leave your camera on? But if you are not currently a member, could you turn your camera off? And I'm just going to grab a really quick screenshot of everybody. So if everybody is ready, the camera on if you are a member, and camera off if you are not a member. And I'm just going to take a quick photo of us. 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. And I'm going to do one more really quick. We got the second page of folks. So 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right, everybody. Thanks for that. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm just going to share my screen with everybody really briefly, just to kind of show you what we're going to be doing. And maybe some of you have used this before, but it's called a Jamboard. And you can just kind of think of it as like a flip chart. You can actually physically flip the pages of it, and you can put Post-it notes on it. And we're just going to keep it really, really simple. So I'll share my screen now, and I'll just show you how that all works. Here we go. All right, so y'all should be able to see this now. And I'm on the first page of the Jamboard, and it says here, you can practice adding sticky notes on this screen. What's your name and where are you from? So just to demonstrate, if you go over to this left-hand side here that I'm highlighting with my mouse, you can hover over this icon that looks like a Post-it and it says sticky note. You just click on that. You can choose whatever color you want to be. And then I'm going to just write my answer. So I'm Meredith, and I'm from the US, and now I'm in Glasgow. So I just hit save, and then you just click anywhere outside of the sticky note to make it disappear. So I've already got 2 on there. So I'm just going to delete this one. And the way to delete it is I highlight it just by clicking on it, and I just hit delete or backspace on my screen, and that's it. So you can see going through this, we're going to answer a couple of icebreaker questions about cutting our hair. They all kind of have to do with lockdown. So what I'm going to do now is I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pop a link to this board in the chat. And once you get this link, all you need to do is click on it, and it'll open up a page like this in your internet browser. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go to the chat and pop this. One second. Okay, so you should be able to see that link now in the chat. And if you don't see it, you can go to the bottom of your Zoom screen where it says chat. Click on that, and it will be the last thing that was just posted there. and see what everybody else has said. And then I can see some of you are already joining. Oh, that's excellent. We've got 18 people so far. That's really good. So you can just go ahead and use this first screen here just to kind of tell everybody your name and where you're from. And we're going to print all of these off when we're done. So it's just like having a recording as you would like on a flip chart. And if anybody's got any questions about this process, you can just unmute yourself and just ask me just here. So start on the first page, and you can just say where you're from, what your name is, and you'll have to kind of drag the sticky note around to like a free space, just like some of you are doing. That's great. Because they start to kind of pile on the top of each other, the sticky notes will. So you got to kind of move them around as you add a new one. Great. Oh, this is awesome. We've got so many people. Okay, so someone in the chat is saying, it says I should download the app. So if you have any sort of internet browser, Firefox, Google, you can just copy the link and put it into your internet browser. It should still work on your mobile phone as well. Wow, we've got everybody, just about everybody on the Jamboard just now. We've got 31 people. That's awesome. So we've got people from South Lanarkshire, Stirling, Dumfries, Dundee, Claire, I see you. So once you've kind of had a practice on this screen, you can go ahead and go to the next screen, have you cut your own hair, and then there's have you had the vaccine. So you can just pop your answers onto here. And it's really just practice because we're going to be using these later in the breakout rooms just to record any notes that you have. And not everybody is going to have to record the notes. We're just going to assign one note taker per breakout room. You can just get your practice in now for another minute or two, and then we'll move on to the business section. And again, if anybody has any problems or any questions using this, just unmute yourself and talk to me, or you can just pop it in the chat. It looks like y'all are experts on this already. Everyone's doing it. Seems to be going real smooth. Maybe at the end of this, everybody who has answered yes to have you cut your own hair, we can all take a picture together so we can see our horrible hairstyles.
And Mayor just asked about if everyone's okay with pictures, and if not, you can turn off your screen.
Exactly.
So yeah, if someone doesn't want your picture taken, you can just turn your video off.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll let you know when we're taking a picture so you're not making a funny face or anything. All right, looks like just about everybody has gone through a lot of these. That's great. And just to keep us on track, we're going to stop this exercise in a minute, and I'm going to hand it back over to Gordon to just officially kick off the AGM. And we're going to just be using this Jamboard, as I said, in the breakout rooms and during some of the speeches that are happening. So it's going to be the same link every single time. So I'll pop it in the chat again when we're going to use it again. But yeah, if you just want to kind of finish up your final thoughts, you can keep it in the background on your browser so you can go back to it. You can see what other people are saying. All right, Gordon, I think I'm going to mute myself and hand it back over to you. But if anyone has any questions, just shoot me a message. That's fine.
Thanks, Meredith. And James, thank you again. So we're going to start with the AGM, as I was saying earlier. Now, can I just check that people have got the paperwork that we sent through? So I think the paperwork included the trustees' annual report, the link for the minutes of last AGM, the agenda for the AGM. Is that okay? We roughly all got that. You can use whatever way you like with that, whether you've got it electronic or like me printing it out still. However, so as I said, we're doing this kind of the other way around from our previous conferences and AGM. So we're doing the AGM first, but I promise you we'll try and get through this as quickly and as painlessly as we can. So you've got the report that we need. The other thing, just to check for apologies, Susan, apart from Elaine McKenna that's just come in there, do we have any other apologies from people?
Apologies from Mark Ellis. from Glasgow.
Any others, Susan? Are we okay? You're on mute.
Sorry, I've got apologies from Joyce Kerr and Carol Clarkson.
Okay.
Apart from that, I think that's it just now.
Okay. The minutes of the last AGM. Now, some of you would have been at that, but some of you wouldn't have been. So again, rather than labouring our way through every page, can I get a proposer and a seconder for those from somebody who was there? I can see Dave Taylor's hand in the air as a proposer. Do we have a seconder? And this is where I'm going to try and go to page 2 as well. Oh, geez. Right, I can't have it off. For Christ's sake, text going to get oh. So I've got a proposer, Dave Taylor. I've not got a big enough screen. I clearly need 50-inch telly. Was that Murdo there doing as a seconder? Right, there you are. He's in my front page. If anybody else is on page 2 trying to do that, then apologies, but we'll take those two as proposers and seconders. Now, as I say, you've got the trustees' report, so I'm not going to go through it page by page, but just in way of a wee bit of background. No, in fact, before that, and this might be tricky now, but I'm wanting to name the other board members. Now, I've put it in alphabetical order, so I'll do this very quickly. And all you need to do is give us a wee wave. Are you ready? It's a very quick roll call. Fiona Ballantyne, wave. Joe Dowd. Joe, you must be on page 2. Can I see? No, I've got you. Murdo MacLeod. There he's there. Elaine McKenna. She's got her apologies in. She's in Blairgowrie. Pam Maxwell. Thanks, Pam. Susan Paxton. I've got her face there. There she's there. Dave Taylor, I know you're here, Dave. Give us a wave. Angus Williamson. Yeah. And James Wood, who's also tech team, as we know, he's doubling up today. Thanks, guys. Now, we became a SCIO. Again, some of you will know all this, so apologies for repeating things for you, but we became a SCIO kind of March time last year, so this is our first AGM since then. The trustees' report, if you've had a chance to get a look through it, has been done in a way that meets OSCR's requirements. So that's different from our previous AGMs and previous reports. But it's been done in a way that meets the requirements, and that's also why it goes up to September 2020. Page 5 of the report, which is headed Achievements and Performance, I think gives a fairly good but fairly short summary of our activities and progress during that period. I'm not going to go through all of that, but I think keeping the regional networks going, establishing a new network in Glasgow, sending out weekly bulletins as opposed to kind of monthly bulletins that we did before, renewing the website. I think all of those were kind of fairly significant things that we managed to get through during what was for everybody a pretty tricky year. All of that's been a collective effort, obviously, but for those that were leading on those things, then a big thanks to Susan Campbell, our CD consultant, Dave Taylor, treasurer, for the website stuff. We don't have enough time, Dave, to go through the issues that we had with the website, but hey ho, it did take up a fair bit of committee time. And Fiona Ballantyne and Crossroads for pulling the Glasgow network together as well. Thank you. Still on page 5 of the report, if you've got it either on screen or handy, I just want to give a few kind of statistical updates, a few numbers to throw in that kind of updates things from October 2020 through to middle of May. We've got 953 members and contacts, 353 Facebook followers, and 1,337 Twitter followers. So for those that are good at all that stuff and of a certain age, perhaps, if you want to kind of boost those numbers up, either over the course of today or certainly over the course of the next few weeks, then please do. We're regional networks, again, just a wee bit of an update from October to now. Dumbartonshire met 5 times, Aberdeenshire 4, 5-3, Ayrshire 5, and the new Glasgow one has met twice, and there's hopefully another Glasgow one happening in the next couple of months. Right, I did say I would try and keep this short. Fiona, I think it might be the shortest AGM in history, but let's just plough on. Dave Taylor, who is our treasurer and is currently on mute, but he's about to unmute himself. is going to take us through the financial statement. Now, that's just the last kind of 2 or 3 pages, I think, of the trustees' report. And again, Dave, I'm not wanting to steal your thunder, but I know you're not going into every minute detail of the accounts either. So can I pass it over to you for the quick financial statement, sir?
Yes, indeed. Obviously, as Gordon's already said, the statement, the financial statement, is from March the 16th through till September the 30th, 2020. And at that stage, the grant funding was 11,250. The payments going out, expenses from charitable activities was £7,775.30. Of that, there was a surplus deficit for the year of 3,474.70. There was a balance that came over at the start of the year, which was £1,978.89. If we'd like to turn the page over, please, to page 8, where you can see that the notes to the accounts. Funding comes from the Cora Foundation, clearly at 11,250. The expenses that were broken down as consultancy of 6,900, web and computer costs of £821.30, and bank charges of £54, accumulating to £7,705.30. Today's balance as of this morning is 1,934.75. That's my bit, Gordon. Thank you.
Well done, Dave. Thank you very much. We'll take some questions at the end if you want, because there isn't any other business. But now the next item we've asked Meredith, who's also, she's doubling up as tech again as well. Meredith has kindly agreed to step in to chair this wee bit of the AGM, the election and re-election of trustees. Meredith.
All right, everyone. So there's just a little bit of a speech I'm going to read out, and then I'll display all the names. So all the board members are standing again, and I'll just show you their names real quick here. That's the screen. So the names are Gordon Terrace, Susan Paxton, Angus Williamson, Fiona Ballantyne, Murdo McLeod, Elaine McKenna, David Taylor, Joe Dowd, Pam Maxwell, and James Wood. And then I'll just say the other little bit that I need to say here. So are all in attendance in agreement. So you can kind of like wave your hands to say yes, people should stay on the board. All right, so I'm seeing lots of thumbs up. Looks like everyone agrees. Okay, so the office bearers will then be appointed at the next meeting after the AGM on the 1st of July. And I'm just going to hand it back to Gordon now.
Thanks, Meredith. So we're doing well for time, for those that are watching the time. We're now at any other business. Now, I'm not wanting to stop anybody asking questions. However, does anyone have any other business relating to the AGM? Clearly, we're no needing any other chat. But is there anybody, any other business?
It might be worth just saying, Gordon, that we've got a couple of vacancies on the board. If anybody's interested in joining us, the Merry Gang.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, we don't. We're not taking nominations today, but there is a way through the website for the application form, isn't it? It's available on the website. Somebody say yes.
As well, if people get in touch with me, I can send out
even better
information about getting involved. What's involved in that?
Okay. Thank you. I'm not sure if we should ask for thumbs down then, if there is no any other business. But I'm taking that there is no any other business. Wait a minute, I'll go to page 2. Hold on, unless somebody's desperate to come in. No, all happy faces. So, I did say it was quick. It's now done. What we're going to do now is have a short sort of 10-minute-ish break. I think we agreed either to charge your glasses or a toilet stop, and then we'll go on to the kind of main business of the day, into the workshop groups and listen for and quick chat from Joe. So 10-minute break, folks. You can either chat amongst yourself or use the message board or mute yourself, or take yourself off camera. Either way, see you all in 10 minutes. Thank you. Are we just about back in the room? I'm struggling with quite a few on my second page that don't have their cameras on, so I'm just kind of presuming they're still there. I'm not asking folk to put cameras on necessarily, guys, but I'm just if I can get a general kind of feel that we're ready to go again. Yeah. Oh, there's thumbs coming up. Oh, lovely. Right, there we go. Okay. Next bit of the programme then. As I said earlier, Joe McConnell has very kindly agreed to give us an input and a bit of an insight into his organisation's work around kind of value-based community development. His organisation is Crossroads Youth and Community Association, that I'm sure many of us will have heard of. Joe, I'm not going to burst your bubble. You're more than capable of introducing yourself, but I felt as though I should do a wee bit there. Can I hand it over to you, Joe, to get us going for the workshops? Thank you.
Yes, you can. Yeah, my bubble was kind of burst anyway because I was listening to the conversation during the break there, and I kind of just wanted to screw up what I'd written down in my notes and throw away because I just wanted to make it really relevant because it was so resonant about what all you guys were saying about those key values that was underpinning, particularly during the COVID crisis there, and just how important they were, and how we as workers and how the communities we worked in reacted to it. So I'm slightly winging it again now because I just want to keep it relevant and keep it on what we were talking about anyway. But I'll introduce myself a wee bit just to give a background of who I am, in case you're wondering, what qualifications this joker got about talking about anything. I work for Crossroads Youth and Community Association. We are based in Gorbals, and we work in. So excuse me.
Is there a light switch for the loft?
I was going to fill in for you there, Joe. Carry on.
That's okay. The joys of working in a busy community centre. So
I know there'll be dogs appearing as well soon, I'm sure, somewhere.
I know. Apologies, we're just kind of busy still. So yeah, so I work for Crossroads, based in Gorbals, and we do work in Govan Hill, community development work, Govan Hill, youth work and community development in Gorbals, and we have our own building, the Barn Community and Youth Centre in Gorbals. That's been there for, well, in this form, 27 years, the shape it is just now, and previously, probably for about 50 odd years, there's been a building of some description that served the young folk in the community of Gorbals. I've worked for Crossroads for 12 years, 10 years the youth worker in Gorbals, and a couple of years or so as the charity manager. But I've been associated with the organisation for 30 odd years because my wife has worked there for all that time. So I think I've got a kind of fairly good insight about what it's all about and what it's set out to do. And I was reminded recently, because we just started a few new folk, and one of the people that started, he was describing to me his approach to his work is like on the principles of Occam's razor. This principle is the simplest solution is probably always the right thing. And I think I was applying that, I was starting to apply that to this question of the values in community development, because it's got so complicated. It's, the values have been, variously lifted by neoliberalism and any other sort of, priorities that throughout the decades, and often used against the sort of basic principles of community development, you know, and so it's been a confusion kind of landscape. But we've been latterly, in the last 2-3 years, been going back to sort of source, back to basics to try to understand things. And there was this new person started who said perhaps the simplest solution is the right one. And so it sent me back to what is the single key sort of value, keystone values that underpin Crossroads work. What, you know, what does it all mean? And somebody stole my thunder during the we were having coffee break there, because somebody said that essentially there was I've got it here actually, there was a book written 30 years ago, Changing Conflict, by 2 community workers from Crossroads about the work in Glasgow community development as it was forming, I think. And they did a huge study with local folk, the workers in Crossroads at the time, and also, interestingly, some real opponents to sort of action-based community development, you know, people whose life was made a bit difficult by that, politicians and the like. But they all came down to the same thing, because the question was asked, what's the essence of community work? And I think that's a rare thing to get, you know, if somebody's able to put the essence of this is we're all doing. And somebody said it during the break, it's about relationships. It's the relationship that you have with your community. And so that linked it straight back to what you were talking about. They linked it straight back to this keystone values and principles that underpinned Crossroads. And they'll know that it's no news to most of you, I would imagine. It's the dictum of Seawright Mills, and it's private troubles, public issues. That's the keystone. That idea that to take a structural perspective of what is happening to individuals, what is happening in communities, and that structural perspective, private troubles, has the source in public issues. That informs the practice of Crossroads, and also informs and defines the relationship that we have with our community. Because long ago, and in that book, it was described, Crossroads staff, and this is still true today, Crossroads staff rejected the idea of a social pathology or a cultural explanation for inequalities. Inequalities had their basic source in the structures that are set up and the impact on folk from the outside. So that idea that it's not you, there's not something about you or how you are living your life, it's the impacts in society on you that are creating these situations and these inequalities. And so the worker is then not in this relationship where they're somehow there to fix the individual, or it's some sort of therapeutic relationship. It's an equal relationship. We're in this together. There's something in the outside impacting on you and your community, and together we'll address that. And that clear definition of the equality of relationship has been the case all the way through, right up from the 50s and 60s and 70s, right up through to 3 years ago, when we re-looked at this as a group, and we readdressed and reset our basic principle for why we do our youth and community work. Risk of repeating myself, because I have shared this at the new Glasgow network, and at the Scdn conference a couple of years ago. But Crossroads newly redressed, but it was its first principle, its first mission statement was everybody has the right to live gloriously. Living gloriously means flourishing, having the capabilities to live the good life for yourself, for your family, and for communities. And whatever in society makes that impossible should be attacked, and whatever in the individual makes it possible should be nurtured and strengthened. And that directly links back to Mill's private troubles, public issues. So there's a clear thread of this single principle and value running through Crossroads work, and I think that's been one of the key things for Crossroads to be there. We're going into our 7th decade at the organisation. And And it's that we keep going back to. I was reminded when I was doing youth work, we'd play a game with the young folk when we go in residentials, a kind of bulldog sort of thing it was called. And if you were out in the field and you get tagged, like you got your tail pulled off you, you had to run back to base and touch it, and you were back in the field and you were back out, you know, in the game. And that's what it feels like for community work and youth work at Crossroads. You go into the context through any of these decades, you know, through my experience through the 90s and the noughties, and your basic value systems for community development underpinning them. I mean, we have our lists like everybody else, I guess, you know, equality, fairness, community, solidarity, self-determination. But these values have been picked up and picked apart and turned round for various other reasons other than tackling inequalities and tackling injustice. And so you have to keep going back every so often, like the kids in the bulldog game, going back, you touch base, and we would touch base and we'd go back and we'd say, is this still under are we still working under private troubles, public issues? Are we still working within those key principles and that key relationship with your communities? Because if we're not, if this project's not, if that partnership that we're developing is not, then we need to stop and change and reset it. And I think in some ways that's been the key to be able to work through the shifts and the different context over 7 decades, is keep going back to that kind of key. Now, I think what I've done is I've really condensed it down and really narrowed it and reduced it down to this key principle, but it's there, it's all the way through change and conflict. We're recently, one of our long-standing workers now, board members for 40 odd years, has wrote a history of the organisation, and it's there running through that. And it seems to me we're not alone in this necessarily, and I think about where key values are there, they're just hidden in plain sight often because you've got all the noise round about it that everybody else is doing. And the COVID crisis, again, that was chatted about during coffee break there, I think that really highlighted it. Not just us, not just Crossroads, but our partners locally in Gorbals and Govanhill. The response was within a few days, the crisis response. And within that few days, we had framed it not as charity, but as a rights issue. Why do people not have access to food? You know, that's not charity, that's a rights-based issue. So that was not your private trouble, that's a public issue. So we framed our crisis response around that, and I think that's influence. I think that's really started to bring back to in spotlight these key issues for the way that you have that relationship with the community. The community understood that, you know, they are partners. They are not receivers of services. They're key partners in this. You know, they're the one. They're the folk out there who are at the sharp end and the receiving end of these structural issues that are impacting on. They feel them, and they often have, you know, the answer to them working alongside skilled community development workers. So I went off my notes because I heard the chat during coffee break, and I just wanted to sort of leave it with that sort of sense of hopefulness. Our annual report this year was based around hope, and that was the idea for me anyway. Was around about Rebecca Solnit, the American activist and writer, who'd said that the past is in daylight, the future is in darkness. If we can take what we already know and what we've done and learned and use that as a torch and a light, get into the future which is unknown, that we already have those values and principles pinned. It's clear for what I heard in the coffee break, and it's clear for what I saw during the crisis, that they're there and they're strong and they're existent, and they've had a clear platform during this crisis to bring them into the fore. So we can go in to the future with that bright shining light about, let's take these values forward. Let's take this idea that it's the structural perspective, I think, is key. This is not you. This is not some, you know, morally or personally fault of you. This is the structural inequalities that are present in you, and together we can do something about that if we organise. and you organise alongside, we can do something about that. So I kind of wanted to get into the chats with that wee bit of hope, and just to sort of say, yeah, it's alive and well in Gorbals, the values, as long as we keep running back to base and touching them. So kind of that's all I wanted to say, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys in the chat rooms. Thanks, Gordon.
I think we're kind of drawn to a close now. Now, at the risk of setting us up for doing a whole load of work, what we'll be doing as a board is we'll be looking at all the information we've captured from today. I'm not sure that I'd want to put a time scale on when we'd be able to share that, but certainly we'll work out a way of sharing everybody's inputs from the discussion groups, and we'll be able to capture things from the Jam board. But I think it really just falls to me to just thank everybody for coming today. Special thanks to Joe McConnell. I'm not sure if we want to do a round of applause. I'll just give folks names. If folk want to applaud, then please feel free. But Joe, thank you again for your time and for sharing your experience. Thank you very much. I think that set us up really well for the workshop. So
cheers, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
Oh, you'll be invited back for other stuff, don't you worry, son? Now you're in.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, once you're in, you're in.
Thank you again, Joe. Thank you. The tech team, Meredith and James, I felt as though it was an honorary member of the tech team there for a minute, just helping James out with that wee last bit, but we wouldn't have been able to do that without you guys. So thank you again. And I think that the one that often doesn't get thanked enough, because she does way too much behind the scenes, is Susan Campbell. So Susan, give us a wave, and thank you again for above and beyond the Call of Duty and keeping us in check. Thank you. Herding cats, I know, but thank you again. And just the final thank you to everybody that turned up. Thank you so much for contributing. This is my first virtual event. I feel as though I'm now an expert, as long as Meredith and James are there, and Susan. So we might do another one of these, who knows? But make sure you follow us and on Twitter and Facebook. Keep an eye on our website, and we'll see you all in the autumn. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for
everyone.
attending.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Take care.
bye. Bye.
Bye.